Assalamualaikum, Krishna Mckenzie. I want to share with you today the very beautiful emerging community gardens in Auroville that really are becoming like the new norm, that people understanding about where their food comes from and participating in that. So here we are today in creativity. So this is an old garden of creativity, but I think 2.5 months ago there was a couple of papayas here and a compost pile and maybe, I don't know, maybe some chicken spinach and a couple of pineapples. That's all there was here. And what we did is we came in here and we made these trenches, and in the trenches we piled in organic matter like these reeds, and in the bottom here there's some sticks and also a lot of other leaves and stuff. Look at that, look at those earthworms. This is the proof of the pudding, you know. You see how the life in the soil comes about through adding organic matter. And then we made these raised beds and we started to plant them. So in these raised beds at the moment you've got everything from lemongrass and cluster beans, the Clitoria tenacia, we've got turmeric that we brought them, and papayas and drumsticks and rosella and amaranth. And this is the Assamese giant lady's finger. Then they've done this beautiful structure because they also have a little support from a gardener who helps them. And he's made this, what we call in Tamil, a pandal. And this is bottle gourd and also ash gourd growing on it. And there are also some wing beans. So we stuck these branches in the ground and the wing beans are climbing on them. There are a whole bunch of edible weeds in this garden as well, such as the commelina, and there is also the sweet potato, and there are bananas, and there are, this is another beautiful variety of amaranth that's also growing wild, and the purple joy weed, and they even have this air potato, I think in the corner there, growing somewhere. This is just a very beautiful space, and the people are quite dedicated. I think they work on a Tuesday evening together, and there's about 6 or 7 of them, and they work on a Friday evening, and then they start to have community dinners. So that's really nice. After I think 6-7 weeks, they started to just harvest all the spinaches, the potalaka, the manatakali, the chicken spinach, the drumstick spinach, and the roselle, and they would make salad, and they would make a spinach dish. And the first community dinner I remember I was invited to was, there's a lovely lady here, Italian Angela, and she made a really Italian pasta, but with the wild spinach, you know. And I think that's great, because people are not just going to drop their tradition, the foods that they're comfort foods, you know, the foods that they're used to. But when they integrate them with local foods, then we really have something going. This is a 20-year-old community. 20 years ago, they said to me they used to regularly have community dinners, and it all stopped. And they said it's restarted again now because of the garden. Now, that's proof of the pudding, no? Come, I want to show you some other places in Auroville. But this is Invocation. Now, Invocation is an apartment complex, as you can see, and this space has not been used. I mean, I've been told by residents for the last 4 years. They've planted some trees, so there's some idea to create some sort of park feeling. But like in many places in Auroville, you know, we should be using this land to grow food. And what's happened here is one of the residents, her son Ayan, is really into the gardening, and her son and my daughter and a whole bunch of other kids have got together and they've said, okay, we're making our children's garden, no adults allowed. And so of course we've given them some help, and these are the beds they've done. So they've got some ladies things, they've got this beautiful amaranth and papaya, and look, this radish is going crazy here, beautiful white radish, and cluster beans, potalaka, different spinaches and moratakan and long beans. And here again you've got tapioca and more amaranth and bananas. And over here you've got some eggplant. And they just planted this lemon tree here, and they've also planted a soursop plant over there. And over here you've got, the plan is to make this into another stretch of garden. And then we've got these gardens that were done previously, but are actually really good. It's the same principle, you know, there's a trench here, and in this trench there's a lot of organic matter. And in that organic matter, of course, is becoming, you know, really healthy, accessible nutrients for the plants. So this is to be done. They've made a new bed there, and they've got a bed there. So they've sort of got this. It's a bit spontaneous, you know. These are kids. They're just finding their way, and you know, I think there's a lot of depth and beauty that a child is creating this from their own inspiration. They're not being told you do this and then you do this and then you do this. So they're sort of making that, and I'm sort of suggesting to them, why don't we dig this pond a little bit more, and the pond will be a central feature. Maybe we can put a coconut next to it, and then we have these gardens sort of going around the place. And I think these gardens will be highly productive, like creativity. They've also started to eat the food. So about 10 days ago, they made their first dish, and they harvested I think it was about 8 different spinaches, and they went back to Solitude and they cooked them. And one of the parents, they came over with chapati, and they made this incredible dish of spinach. I think there was a little garlic and onion and salt, you know. And this whole narrative of kids don't like greens, kids don't like fresh fruit, utter nonsense. Every kid devoured that food. They said it was utterly delicious. And there was enough for the next day. In the breakfast, me and my daughter, we had some. And in the next lunchtime, another whole bunch of people had some. I think about 20 people ate from those couple of beds. The amaranth and the chicken spinach and, you know, these different edible weeds. That's the proof of the pudding, you know, that it's feeding people. And that feeding, there was this sense of fulfillment in that, in eating that food, and that is of such a value. It's absolutely beautiful. Some of the challenges are social here, you know. Some of the residents, maybe it's a challenge for them to have this happening for whatever reason. So that's one of the things that we're working very strongly on, is how to bring this really into our collective narrative, you know, like, you know, in Auroville, recycling, it's a collective narrative. It's like everyone agrees. But I can tell you there's some places in the world where it's too much of a bloody effort and they don't want to try, and, you know, so people oppose it. But, you know, likewise, this can become our collective narrative, okay? So let's make a move and we'll go to the next place. So just down the road from Creativity and Invocation, where we were, we've come to Serenity. If you see, Serenity is another one of these very modern Auroville communities where, you know, they've made these units and people are living around them. And again, a lot of space, a lot of landscaping that hasn't been thought out, in my eyes, in relation to, well, what's our primary need? Our primary need is food, you know, and obviously Corona has shown us that we can't just depend on a centralized system of food distribution being defined by coin. It's much more a question of, okay, well, what's our relation and our understanding of what grows around us? So there's a lady called Reka, and Marion and Stefano, they started this garden in Serenity, and it's one of the oldest gardens. Now, one of their challenges was cows, because it's quite a large compound. It's actually 3 communities, Maitreya, Serenity, and Maitreya 2. And I think to control all the cows coming in, it's been a challenge. So what we did is we made a fence here. So this fence is just loads of sticks stuck together. But then what's happened is the gourds, like this is ash gourd, that's just like started growing on the fence, and into the fence this is called chaya. This is the Mayan tree spinach, and tapioca and papayas, and there's ridge gourd, and you know, bananas, and all sorts of plants, edible plants, actually making use of the fence as a structure. Here you've got these beautiful bottle gourd flowers that you can see. You know, they only last one morning, but they're absolutely exquisite. And this fence is going to offer a lot of food. Now, if we go in the garden, I mean, I think this is very creative. Personally, I think it brings just another vibe to a community. But if you come in this garden here, you can see. Well, firstly, they've got this moratakan, which is the balloon vine, and that's really good for our articulations, our joints, our elbows and knees. And on this bed here, you start to have some brinjals, some beans, some pineapple, some chaya, few ladies' finger. That's this bed, which is at the edge of the fence. On this one is more developed. Cucumbers, there's the pineapples, of course, all those gourds. There's some early tomatoes and turmeric, and a whole bunch more of tapioca. Now these guys, they are using their grey water, as is creativity and invocation as well. Now grey water, the issue with grey water, as far as I know, and I'm not an expert, I'm very careful to be clear about that, but it's mainly the E. coli, the potential to have E. coli. Now what happens is when you're watering, the E. coli will sit on the leaves and it's not easy to get off. So what they do here is they have a spinach section, and this spinach section, they water this with plain, with normal water from not normal water, with fresh water from a well. And then this they feel a bit more comfortable about eating. But I know they're also using the other greens as well that have the potential of E. coli. They're just really careful. They rinse it off. And what we've discovered recently is that if we use a drip irrigation where the water is going directly onto the soil and there is no connection with it to the plant, then we're pretty home and dry with that E. coli story. But look at this spinach bed. It's really awesome. You have lemongrass and beautiful basil. This is the portulaca, high in omega-3. Then you've got the kalparavali, the Indian ajwain with this balloon vine. You've got chicken spinach. You've got this ponangani, which is really good for the skin and for the eyes. You've got other varieties of amaranth here with the little white flowers. You've got devil's back whiplash, the Brazilian joyweed. You've got this local one called the Satanikida. And I think there's some other amaranths. There's the New Zealand spinach over here, which is really beautiful. And it's just like, it's very joyful, and these people, they eat it. So there's only about 3 of them who eat it, but they constantly eat this, and that's part of their diet, along with the drumstick, along with the chaya, and along with other produce that they have. And again, what I see, and I say this very gently, but the challenge that we have is not so much growing the food, it's social. You see how every house is pretty individual, so you go in your house, you lock your door, you do whatever you do, and the other person goes in their house and locks their door, and we have our architecture already defines our social interaction in that way. I mean, we all need an individual space, I'm not saying that, but there has to be a thought of how do people relate to each other, and we will relate to each other on essential levels, on cooperation for water, for food, for services, like sharing a washing machine. And I think that all those things have to be really considered when we start developing housing projects in Auroville. My friend Poonam, who is a very respected architect in Auroville over the last 20 plus years, she's working on a manual which is actually, the top 10 best actions that we can do as architects to implement our relationship with local food into our architecture. How do you do that? Collective gardens, collective kitchens. Like collective kitchens is a big one. It's just missing, We just assume that no one wants to do anything together. But I think it's a very weak assumption, and that is what is actually defining us. Look at this cluster bean, so beautiful, and it's just got its first cluster beans. They're going to start eating that very soon. The bananas are super healthy. Papayas are doing so well. Here's another little spinach section, and drumstick, and you have these little beds here where they've started to put in ladies' fingers and different plants. Now what they want to do is they want to make a whole fruit forest in this section, which can contain about 20 fruit trees, from custard apples, star fruit, soursop and sweet limes and jackfruits and chikus. And it's quite a beautiful plan. And in between them, because you're watering those fruit trees, would of course be papayas and bananas and all sorts of other possibly pumpkins and plants like that. But there's a vision, to move forward and to develop something in a very beautiful way. We go and see the next place. Just next to Serenity, we're in Maitreya 1 now, and this here, if you see, is Mia's house, and there is Mia with her big floppy hat. And Mia is a very courageous person, because I think that there is I wouldn't say it's resistance, but to make a change is always, you have to put your head above the crowd and do something different. And together with Yermalai and Surya, who are my old friends, they are really, they're some of the local people who really embrace permaculture and understand how to value their own cultural heritage. And what basically Yermalai has done last week is, we did these beds, no?
Yeah.
Made beds. The first bed has cluster bean, the second has lady's finger, which hasn't germinated yet. The third bed has radish, and then we have amaranth here. What did we put here? Cucumber, no? Cucumber with tapioca. And then we're doing 2 more beds, which will go around this area. They'll follow the edge of this path, the fence here. And then there'll be a second one here. And I think what Mia wanted was also a little bit, there's an architectural landscaping involved in this. She at the moment, people are just looking into her living room and her bedrooms. So she just wanted a bit of like a screen, like some papayas, tapiocas, but she wanted them to be edible. So she's already thinking like, how can this land be useful? And as she's a very, very proactive person, she's ready to do the work herself. That's it's just perfect. Now what we'll need to do is again bring one of those, the same fence like we had done that Rekha had done at Serenity, bring it here. It will also be a space on which the pumpkins and the gourds will all climb. This is very exciting for me. The reason is there are many lands like this in Auroville. And I think it's not that people don't want to do it. They have to find their inspiration. They have to find like the way forward. And I think that with Mia's courage and joining together with Yermalai and Surya, who have a knowledge to share, local knowledge, which they can say, well, look, this is how we do it. We sort of show a way for people. Well, you can also do this, So this garden is of immense importance for me in my vision of trying to make this our new normal. So now we are in Maduka, which again is just down the road. I mean, Auroville is not that huge. All the gardens are just but there's a lot of things in this sort of residential zone. It's almost like the more city sort of people of Auroville, that they feel the need maybe more than someone who lives in the green belt, who probably already has a few of their own fruit trees and maybe their own patch of pumpkins or something. But here what we have is Mathilde from Mark's Coffee. She is she's a very proactive person. She's she's a make it happen person. And here they have problem with peacocks, which is cows, peacocks, porcupines, the wild boar. Auroville really, the beautiful re-emergence of wildlife actually is a challenge for growing local foods. So this is to stop the porcupine, to stop the peacocks, and the fence is to stop the porcupines and also other animals. And again, they've taken up this idea that I'm trying to promote, to use the organic matter we have. So they dug these trenches that are actually pretty deep. They're about 20 centimeters, 25 centimeters deep, and they filled them with organic matter. This is not complete yet. Now they're going to put leaves on top because this is a bit rough to walk on. But in Auroville, we are multi-millionaires. If you consider that our primary wealth is nutritional, and nutrition starts with organic matter because that's what makes a healthy soil, that makes healthy plants. We have so much of it. So here, very wisely, she's made trenches and filled it with organic matter. This garden has also been done in collaboration with Surya and Yermalai, who we met in Mia's garden in Maitreya 1. And yeah, this is, now she's got tapioca planted in here. She's got sweet potato done here. I think she's put in some radish and lady's finger and cluster beans. And as the season goes on, you know, she'll add some basil and some tomatoes and brinjals and all of that. I think they have 7 families living in Maduka. So I see this as a start for people, you know. If they could start to do this regularly and value this, then I think the choices that we make as a community will be defined by this relationship. The choices of what foods we choose to buy, and also what else we do with our land, you know. So this is Maduka. I'm very, very impressed with how Madhu just got this together, because it was just a lot of rubble here like a few weeks ago, and she just said, okay, we're going to do it. And there she is, she's done it. And around the border, she's going to do drumstick, papaya, banana, because those plants don't get bothered by the peacocks. So that's... you know, she will have a little bit more space as well on the outside. I think on the edges she wants to put pumpkins and bottle gourd. I think she's probably already planted them. I gave her the seeds yesterday, and they'll climb on the fence. Yeah, so let's see. So this garden, and now which is just again a bit more down the road, is Aditi, and Aditi is the secretary of Auroville's residence. So the secretary of Auroville is a government officer who is appointed by the government to be the main interlink between the working groups of Auroville and understanding what's happening here and linking back to the government, because the Auroville is a project of the government of India. Now, this land, I've known it for years because it's just next to Solitude. It's just been like just left, you know, not abandoned, but it's just left. And this year, Srinivasan Mutti, who is our acting secretary and, you know, a long-standing government servant of India and really a bedrock of Auroville, he said, along with one of his personal assistant, Kartik, okay, let's get this land going, you know, let's start valuing the spaces that we've had. So they approached me and I said to them, okay, well, the first thing to do is we make beds and we put organic matter in these beds. And so these beds have been done like all these other places. If you look in here, oh, I can't even get it out. There's lots of heavy sticks and heavy sticks in there decomposing, look. You know, so there's all this organic matter decomposing, bringing microorganisms and molds and insects and earthworms and fungi, small animals, the mycelium, bringing life back to the soil. And then you see what happens. You have cucumbers and corn and lady's finger and radish and cluster beans and tapioca and bananas and pumpkin and papaya and wing beans and amaranth and sweet potatoes and bitter gourd and long beans and ash gourd and bottle gourd and flat beans, lub beans, and it's very beautiful. Now, Ramashankar is long-standing also employee of Government of India, working in Auroville. We've known each other for many years, and part of what he's doing is helping just, you know, coordinate this along with Kartik, who is Srinivasan Mutti's personal assistant. And I think there's one lady, Kitchen Amma, she also helps with the watering, no? And then a few other people, they all a little bit involved. And the first crop they had, now the bed is empty, but the first crop they had was amaranth. And I think there was like maybe 30-40 bundle of amaranth, no? Everyone got amaranth. Everyone was eating it from the foundation of his. for me, this is very beautiful, because what it actually says is sort of says the government almost, because this, of course, this represents the government of India, and the government of India is saying, well, hang on, we should be valuing the spaces that we have. We should be valuing the resources we have. Now, if the government is doing that in Auroville, surely Aurovillians will also take note and say, well, hang on, we also have a responsibility to this land and to honor these vegetables. For example, this bean here, the cluster bean, you hear people say, oh, I don't like this bean. But it's just because they don't know how to cook it, because this is a wonderful bean in the Tamil culture. And, it's just sort of forgotten. That's the only problem. So this has just started. I think we started this 2.5 months ago, no? It's just 2.5 months old, this garden. And it's going so fast. Even I think it's 2 months old, not 2.5 months old. And it's going so fast. And so it's very, very pleasing to see. I like to imagine what's going to happen here after the monsoon and in the peak season, in January, February, March. Tomatoes and capsicums and all sorts of other beautiful produce, lettuce, and I think there's a lot of potential here. So we'll go to the next place, Ramashankar. Thank you so much. Okay. So here in the Tibetan Pavilion, this beautiful space where I saw the Dalai Lama lay the foundation stone here and give a speech out here. Absolutely beautiful place, run by Khalsa and Namgal, and they're very special Aurovillians. They're very, they're loved by everybody. And they're very, very open-minded and dynamic, because what we have here is we have a typical scenario of how in Auroville we just leave things, It's not that it's bad, but there's no intention in it. It's just things just leave, and there's lots of big trees start growing, and they dwarf mangoes and they dwarf fruit trees that were planted with an intention. And actually, at the end of the day, nothing happens. It's just sort of like a park, and we're going back to forest, which is good. Let's have forest, but let's have forest on lands which are degraded, that need, regenerating. But let's have some areas around our residences where it's focused on food, and they've recognized that. So they've prepared the land, they've cut out big trees, excessive trees, they've given space to grow food. Come, I'll show you where it is. I love this garden so much. There's so much heart in it. You can really feel. In the first bed, they've got some radishes come and a few spinaches. The second bed, they've got amaranth, which they've already been harvesting a lot of, but they've still got a lot more. And they've got a couple of beds with corn. Here they've got some long beans. That's why they've got these branches. The branches are not alive; they're structures. And this is a long bean here. Look. And that long bean is starting to grow up into the branch. It'll be supported also on this plant. And they've got some cluster beans growing in there as well. So the cluster beans, they'll just climb up, and the long beans will sort of creep in between. Here they've got some amaranth and lady's fingers, which is not looking too bad. The lady's finger probably we need to plant a few more. There's a few that haven't germinated. Here they've got cucumbers. And cucumbers have done very well. They've also put these sticks in so the cucumbers can climb up them. Cucumbers look very healthy. And the drumstick. In this bed they've got long beans, which have, again, they put these sticks on. And in these beds, this is new, I haven't seen that yet. These beds they've got wing beans in here. And if you look in these trenches, Namgal, he really went crazy with the trenches. I think he really got this idea that these trenches, if they're really deep and we value a lot of organic matter in them, that's only going to make the soil amazing. And he's absolutely right, but he went for trenches about 30 plus centimeters deep. And here, in this area, was full of trees. And they've cut out these trees that they hadn't even planted them, and they've just put them all back into the ground. Look, you can see like a long piece there, fully in this ground. If we come back here in 6 months to a year, we will see this soil has really taken on another quality. Already it's not too bad. And what they've done is they've also given light for their mango. They said this mango never gives fruit. And they've given light for this mango, and for this chiku in here, and the cashew, and there's a star fruit back there. And if we walk this way, this is actually where the first garden started. So here they've got bottle gourd, which is going crazy. Look, it's climbing all the way up there. And they've got tapioca. And they've got some potalaka, some other types of cucumber, sundakai, the turkey berry, and papayas. And I think there's some bananas in the back there as well. And I imagine that they're going to probably extend this garden at one point, and they'll, you know, maybe in the shady area they'll have turmeric and pineapples, etc. But it's beautiful, you know. I tell people, you know, of course you're thinking about feeding yourself and you know, maybe your neighbors and the people around you, but this place will become a resource for people, you know, there's no doubt about it. This, you know, you grow 30 beans plants, you're going to eat like in a week maybe the harvest of 1 or 2 of them, and the rest, it's all to be shared. So I see this incredible potential of abundance, but there is work here. That's important to understand. Permaculture will give you an enormous profit. But it's not profit on this sort of linear way where you put your money in the machine, you pull the lever, press the button, and you get your returns. It's a lifestyle profit. It's a profit where you're engaged, you know. So over the lockdown period, there's been, you know, 2 or 3 people coming in here, observing all the social distancing with masks and all of that, and creating this garden together. It's created community. As I showed you in creativity with the food and everything. These guys make the best momos in town, everyone says. And they start to use the potalaka in the momo, the kalparavali, the chicken spinach. They start to put the amaranth in the momo. And now will come the cluster beans. And then will come the long beans and the bottle gourd. People are recognizing that the quality of their food is because, you know, there's a relationship to where it's coming from. So me and Ruben, we've been running around Auroville all morning doing this, and I think we're going to call it a wrap right now for today. But I've got a lot more gardens like this that I really want to share with you. So, you know, stay tuned. Please subscribe to this channel. Please hit the notification bell and, you know, leave your comments, engage with us. Show us what you're doing in your place. Send us photos, send us videos, send us links. I would love to promote anyone, you know, and share anyone else's work that they're doing in the same field of honoring our cultural nutritional identity by recognizing that this is the new normal. Last thing I'd like to tell you, the word Thambi in Tamil means a younger brother, and Tube Thambi is our partner. It's a channel. It's really pulling all the creative YouTube channels together in Auroville, from Nina Sengupta to the Medical Clown to all these channels, bringing them together and putting them under one umbrella. So please hit a big thanks and subscribe to Tube Thambi, because they are really doing a very innovative work in Auroville in bringing us, giving us this visibility. And I'm going to see you in the next few days with a whole other bunch of gardens in Auroville. Thank you so much.